Welcome to Beyond the Focus, the podcast where clarity meets confidence. At McIntosh and Associates, we believe retirement is about more than numbers. It's about living the life you've worked so hard for. Through real stories, expert insight, and practical tips, we're here to guide you in your journey towards financial clarity and freedom.
I'm Mark Kelly. Glad you're with us. We're talking about the challenges that women face, and it's typically because women typically outlive their male counterparts. So if you're going to live 5, 10 years longer, and Mindy, what are you, 20 years younger than Nolan?
She,
You know it.
Absolutely.
I act it.
and looks it. So.
You know, I'm ready to just do all the things with the kids, have fun. If we have to stay up late and still get up early, it's fine. And he's like, oh, no, it's time to go to bed. He's much more regimented on what happens in our normal day-to-day work week, I'd call it. So I'm just going to say I'm the one staying young at heart, Mark.
Yes, even though you're born in the same year.
3 months apart.
Born in the same year. Absolutely. All right. So we're talking about the challenges women face, though, that they typically will outlive their male counterpart. And it's not unusual for it to be a decade or more even. So you think about typically if you're the same age, like Minnie and Nolan, basically it's 5 to 6 years longer for the female. We'll see. You never know how it's going to play out because there's always exceptions. But one of the challenges, Nolan, would be the Social Security decision. We know that they could lose some or all of a pension when they lose a spouse. We know they're going to lose the smaller of the two Social Securities, keep the higher of the two. So that makes Social Security decision on when and how to start it for a married couple, I would think, to be a really big decision. You got to look at other factors besides just that one, I'm sure.
Yeah, obviously nobody knows how long we're going to live. And so Social Security can be a very, just fickle monster because there's a lot of different ways that a married filing jointly couple can file. There's a lot of different ways if somebody's been married a couple times, right? And they've been married over 10 years that they can file. So it can get very tricky. And I don't necessarily, I don't want to put out there that there's a right or wrong decision here. I just think, we try be as optimal as possible for Social Security. And ultimately it's still up to the client's decision-making process on when we file. But particularly for a married filing jointly couple, there's a couple different ways that they can file. Let's say the spouse didn't have enough credits to put in, that they didn't put enough into Social Security where they get a benefit, a primary benefit. There is what's called a spousal benefit that you can draw. Now, unfortunately, the Social Security office, they love to use the verbiage up to 50% of whatever the spouse's, amount is. And so the challenge is if you don't draw it right, you don't get 50%. The only way you're going to get 50% is if the, higher Social Security, the primary, waits to their full retirement age, and if the spousal waits till their full retirement age to draw the spousal. That is how you get 50%. Otherwise, it's a reduced benefit that you would receive as a spousal benefit if you didn't both wait. Now, I'm not saying that's what we do. I'd say there's very few instances where we would have both delay all the way to their full retirement age because it's all the way up to 67 now. So, and then there's also what's called a widower's benefit, where if the primary Social Security passes away, then the spouse would now get that full amount of what they were getting, but now theirs drops off. So they get the higher of the two. So let's say there's two people collecting Social Security and they both have their primary. If the person that passes away amount was lower than the person that's collecting, they just keep their own benefit, but then the other one drops off. But if it's the other way around, where the person was lower that was drawing, was lower than the person that passed away, they would get the higher of those amounts. And so that's why there's a lot of different strategies to be able to look at to see what makes sense for each situation. But the challenge is we don't know how long we're going to live. And so the longer we delay, so we use a Social Security timing tool that says, okay, this is what we would do if we did a custom strategy versus if we delayed it. And then we look at, okay, cumulatively, how long would it take? Because every year we don't draw Social Security is another year that we could have been collecting an income off of it. Well, what's the cumulative effect of that? If we delayed it, how many years does it take for us to say, if we didn't draw now versus, us drawing today, how long would it take for us to catch up? And so for some people, it might be into their 80s. For some people, it might be in their 70s. Now, depending on if there's other resources to use, other investment strategies that we can look at, would it make sense to delay Social Security versus, taking it now? Maybe. But it's all dependent upon everybody's situation. But really, it comes down to We don't know how long we're going to live. And there's some people that are very adamant that they don't care. They don't trust the government. And so therefore they're saying, I put into Social Security all my life. I am drawing as soon as I can. I don't care what optimal strategy you've come up with. We are drawing that income. There is a lot of things that go into Social Security timing, a lot of different factors. And realistically, it does come down to, what makes the client feel more comfortable. And then we just kind of walk through that together and say, okay, this is what it looks like if we start drawing Social Security. But yeah, there's definitely two different ways that somebody as a surviving spouse or somebody that's alive can draw if they didn't have their own benefit, things of that nature, if something was lower. And that's the widower versus the spousal benefits.
So there's a lot of moving parts with Social Security. This is why it's a great opportunity to sit down with Mindy and Nolan and talk about your situation, because there is the spousal benefits, the survivor benefits, all of that. But when do you start it? And then when the higher wage earner starts it, then the other one could take half of theirs even. But you can't do it until it starts. That spousal benefit Nolan was talking about. There's just a lot of rules. There's a lot of regulations. 989-656-8885, really to find out your best time. Doesn't mean you have to do that, but Nolan and Mindy can certainly tell you, hey, here's what it looks like just by using math. 989-656-8885. The other part of that, you lose the lower of the two Social Securities when you lose a spouse. You might lose some or all of a pension, Mindy, but then they call it the widow's tax penalty. You're not going to see that term in the IRS code book, if you will. But once you lose a spouse, the government says, congratulations, you're married for 50 years. We'll let you file your taxes the year your spouse passed as joint, but then next year you've got to file as a single person. That's one of the biggest tax increases you're going to get, isn't it?
It sure is, and it's so real, this widow tax penalty. It catches so many folks off guard because it's not a single rule, but it's a cascade of tax changes that happens when your spouse dies. And after the loss of a spouse, what happens is a survivor then shifts, as we've been talking, from married filing jointly to the single filer status. And it sounds like, this might be just an administrative change, but financially, it is a major shift. So what happens is it compresses your tax bracket. So single filers now hit higher tax rates much faster than married couples did. So as a widow, the same income is getting taxed much more aggressively. And the result is higher effective tax rates, even though the household income may have actually dropped. So we see loss of deductions as well. So sometimes we see fewer opportunities to split income strategies. Social Security taxation can increase up to 85%. And so it becomes taxable more quickly, and the provisional income threshold doesn't adjust proportionately. And then we have things such as IRMAA, or Medicare spikes for single filers with the same income and having a higher Medicare Part D or B premium. We see requirement distributions. They don't shrink, and they're taxed at a higher single rate when you're withdrawing from the IRAs. So it could blindside so many women. So timing lag can just really create a false sense of security. So they're still needing to file what happens in 2 years from now. So initially, if we don't see taxes change much, then they suddenly get this blow later on. And income, it doesn't really drop as much as expected. So many fixed income sources are going to remain the same if there was investment income, RMDs, now just one Social Security, though, and pension. So what do we actually see happening is, sometimes we even saw with a client recently, when the spouse passes away, what actually happened then is we had a married couple, woman lost her husband actually at 52 years old. And like many couples, they did a great job saving. But now at 52, they did have an age discrepancy. So her husband was about 15 years superior to her in age. So things like Social Security, pension, retirement accounts, they were financially stable. But then what happens? First year, really, really not a lot that she felt. Nothing really changed tax-wise because she was still filing jointly that year. The second year, still manageable, but by year 3, things really started shifting. Now filing as single, tax brackets were smaller, standard deductions dropped, and it really changed that retirement income that they relied on as a couple started getting taxed at a higher rate. Then on top of that, Social Security became taxable, Medicare premiums went up, so that mandatory tax went up. And she just looked at me and she said, I don't understand. I have less in my household. Why does it feel like I'm paying so much more in tax? And that sums it up. It's this widow's tax penalty. And as heartbreaking as it is, in a window of time, the widow right after your husband passed away is where we can reduce some future tax burdens, but no one had shown this particular client of ours now of what to do really immediately. So planning and timing is key. It matters so much more than you might even realize. And it's not about where you're at today, but it's about what can happen to the survivor later. So if you're married, you're widowed, or nearing retirement, it's a conversation we want to have before it becomes a problem. And we walk families through this. So if you'd like clarity or what that could look like, I encourage you to schedule a visit or call our team at McIntosh and Associates.
FocusWealthPlan.com. Under the events tab, find out more about the events that Mindy will talk about, but there's events throughout the year as well. There's a calendar right there, the events tab. FocusWealthPlan.com. And of course, if you have questions, you're just trying to figure out, man, I wonder if we can retire. I think we've done the right things. I think we're okay, but I'm not sure. Great opportunity to get some clarity into your situation. All right, Mindy, you've got a couple events coming up in May.
We sure do. So you're right. You can go to FocusWealthPlan.com under the attendant event, or you can call the office. I'll give you the number in a moment, but we're very excited for two upcoming events. One is May 7th. It's in our event studio. It's talking about CAS investment strategies. It's at 5:30 p.m. And really, if you've built real wealth, and if you already know, traditional investing alone may not be enough anymore. So some of the biggest institutions in the world, pensions, endowments, family offices, it's not just about stocks and bonds. They're heavily allocating into private markets. That's where so many people find the opportunities that can exist today. So if you have some wealth, nearly 87% of companies that have over 100 million in revenue, they're actually private, and most investors don't get access to them. So on May 7th, we're bringing you the inside story of a different way to think about investing through the lens of CAS Investment and their Strategic Opportunity Fund. We will have a guest here at the office again at 5:30. And it's really about building smarter systems. It's a Moneyball approach to your portfolio. And we're going to design multiple return drivers for private equity, credit, real estate, and venture. So if you're wondering, you want to get a behind the scenes look about a broad diversification across private markets and want to give you exposure like technology, healthcare, energy, and even professional sports. It's important. Be here. It's the alignment that matters. So the conversation will be exciting. Again, May 7th in our Freeland event studio. Arrive at 5:30, have some wonderful refreshments. Kate here is bringing some great Moneyball approach goodies and snacks, and we'll start promptly at 6 p.m. May 7th. If that one doesn't work for your schedule or doesn't seem right for you, then we're going to have coming up a Medicare and Social Security on May 12th in our event studio as well at 6:30 p.m. We're going to talk about things as you approach Medicare, types of plans, what the cost will look like, and how we timeline Social Security into your income plan and footprint for that. A couple of upcoming events. We'll have snacks, refreshments. Our little event baker, Ava, our middle daughter, will be making some snacks for the Medicare and Social Security. Not sure what that might look like yet, but a great time to come on out, visit with others, meet some new folks, and be enlightened on some additional educational factors right here in Freeland, Mark.
How many people can you hold? Because I know the investment world, there's probably a lot of people that are like, well, I don't know if I have enough money for that. It's kind of unique, I think, though, to hear about some different opportunities. That's kind of cool. That's May 7th at 5:30 at your office. The Social Security and Medicare one, though, that's the one that I think the government programs are so confusing. How many people can you hold? I would think that one would fill up pretty quick.
Yes, both of these events can hold a max of 60 folks here in our event studio. So you are going to want to RSVP for those. I know that the Medicare event is nearly full, so we'd love to have you. We continue to have these events up and coming for educational purposes. And it's just a really nice time even too to, I say, get out of the house that evening, come hear some additional information, have some snacks and refreshments. And we'd love to continue to walk through all things, either making it clear with Medicare and really tax ways and ABCs of health and Social Security timing. And then on a different front of how are some different alternative investment strategies to let people have more exposure.
Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business McIntosh & Associates. McIntosh & Associates Financial is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by McIntosh & Associates are not subject to investment advisor requirements. AEWM and McIntosh & Associates are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. McIntosh & Associates Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by McIntosh & Associates Financial.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
This radio show is a paid placement.
Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Focus. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, rate, and review the podcast. For more resources and to connect with our team, visit us at focuswealthplan.com. Until next time, stay focused and keep leading with purpose.